Spider-Man is one of the most iconic and beloved characters under the Marvel banner, and for good reason. Originally created by Stan Lee and artist Steve Ditko, Spider-Man's been web-swinging around New York and stomping would-be criminals since his first appearance in Amazing Fantasy No. 15 in August of 1962. Commonly, Spider-Man is the alias of one Peter Parker, an orphan raised in New York City by his aunt and uncle, May and Benjamin Parker. Peter struggles often with issues regarding his adolescence, financial issues, and relationship issues that tend to stockpile while he contends with Spider-Man-related duties, that he takes on not out of a sense of desire for fame, but a desire to do the right thing with the abilities he's coincidentally been granted. Abilities he acquired via a bite from a radioactive spider, which allows him to now cling to surfaces, shoot spiderwebs, and detect danger with his spider sense, among other things. In a way, Spider-Man is what I would call my favorite hero character, because despite the heft of his work and the inherent fantasy of acquiring spider-like superpowers, Peter Parker at his core is a relatable character. He's not special, he's not particularly destined for his role, he simply does what he feels is right with the abilities that he's been given. Not only that, but his financial struggles, his problems regarding self-identity, rejection, inadequacy, and loneliness are all extremely relatable problems for young readers, and particularly young geeks, of which I definitely am. With popularity across the nation, however, comes opportunity for monetization, which is no clearer than in the case of the recent split between Disney and Marvel, which resulted in Spidey being dropped cold turkey from the MCU at large, leaving many a fan upset and confused, and of course blaming Sony for being uncooperative. But why would they do something like this? Why would they allow for this kind of thing to happen, and where do we go from here? What's the bright light in the darkness that will give Spider fans solace during this difficult and uncertain time? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today, using one of the most beautiful and indulgent pieces of Spider-Man media in recent memory to make my point with. Of course, I'm talking about 2018's ridiculously well-received Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, produced by Sony Animation. Here's why Disney could never have made that. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a 2018 animated film in the Spider-Man franchise produced by Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures Animation, in association with Marvel, and distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. It's the very first animated feature film in the franchise, and stars Miles Morales in a story focusing around multiple different Spider-Verses colliding together as the result of a plan enacted by the Kingpin. While Miles coincidentally acquires spider powers and witnesses the death of his universe's Spider-Man, he teams up with other spider people launched into New York from other dimensions to stop Fisk's plans. Despite being a CGI animated film very much in the same category as any of Disney or Pixar's recent 3D outings, something that makes Spider-Verse unique right out of the gate is its distinct visual flair. The film has a style which combines the Sony Pictures animation pipeline with traditional hand-drawn comic book techniques. The film required up to 140 animators, the largest crew ever used by Sony Pictures for an animated film. This approach, described by Lord and Miller as wanting it to feel like, quote, "you walked inside a comic book," lends the film an almost blistering sense of style right from the beginning.
New York is an iconic part of the movie.
Yeah, and we'd really drilled into trying to treat New York the way only animation can. Treat it like it's a character, and not just the whole city of New York, but the boroughs itself. We treated like different characters. Manhattan was this exaggeration of scale and light and brightness.
The shot where Miles is leaping off the building.
That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
It has an illustrated feel to it, and it starts with these models that, on their own, kind of look broken. All the buildings are portions that don't make sense for New York, and they're skewed in a way that...
Buildings were miles long.
They were, yeah. We had buildings that were maybe 8 to 10 times taller than they should be for New York in shots. They're also weirdly composed so that when you see it from the shot camera, it all looks really, it looks really cool. If you pull from the side and you view it through a witness camera, you can see that not only are the buildings very strange proportions, but the layout is really messed up. It's really weird, broken looking.
The visual storytelling work at play in this movie is simply jaw-dropping and takes full advantage of things that live action could never get away with. It took an entire year for 2 of the team's animators to create 10 seconds of footage that reflected the producer's desire for the style, which the team then developed upon from there. During development, directors worked with a single animator to establish the overall look of the film, which eventually grew to 60 by the time production had begun. Eventually, the team expanded outward to 142 animators by August of 2018 in order to finish the film on time.
We, as a show, stacked hands and decided they were going to prioritize good taste over accuracy. And accuracy is one of those things that computers do really well, and people are better at good taste, and sometimes having things misaligned or feeling slightly imbalanced is appealing, and it adds to the design. And so that's process of every department contributing a little bit. Everyone gets to improve on it as part of our workflow. The imperfection is charming. Life's imperfect. Computers are too perfect, and that's one of those things that it feels sterile. One of those things that feels like it had so much more design in it because there's all these little misregisterings and little misalignments, and contacts aren't absolutely perfect. Again, it's good taste is more important than accuracy.
Animation was completed in October of 2018, a mere 2 months before the film's theatrical release. The process, of course, was rigorous. CGI animation was combined with line work, painting, dots, cross-hatching, toning, all different types of comic book techniques to make it all look and feel like it was created by hand, a living painting of sorts. This was achieved by taking the rendered CGI frames and going back over them in 2D, with the goal of making every frame of the film look like a comic panel. In addition, it was animated without motion blur, instead using an older technique, motion smearing, as first seen in the 1940s. Different frame rates, depths of field, and entirely new techniques called the misprint style, where the colors look like they've been slightly misprinted on the background, were all utilized to the fullest to make the film's style as authentically comic-esque as possible.
The effects team did this amazing thing where we had the character designer make a library of drawings. So that was something we could make rules for. This is the way that nose would look from this head angle to camera. And we made a whole bunch of poses that defined that. And the effects team would recreate those in 3D space with those rules of head angle to camera, and then let the machine learning program try and guess where those drawings would go. And a person would correct it every time it was wrong, making it therefore another rule. And little by little, we're teaching the computer to make drawings that we find redundant. So like an example like where Miles is scrunching his face right there. Usually with a character like this, you'd have to be wrinkling the model in order to get this sort of crease. And it would never be as satisfying as a simple stroke. You can just have this stroke on top of it, and it's far more expressive, and we understand it. It's more clear.
All that technology was in the service of allowing artists more freedom to do things by hand, and it all became a part of this handcrafted feel.
You know, with great ability comes great accountability.
That's not even how the saying goes,
Man, I
Dad.
do like your cereal, though. I mean, I'll give you that.
In addition, different art styles were adopted for the different universe's Spider-People to emphasize their distinctness. Spider-Man Noir has a black and white color scheme, Spider-Ham looks like a Looney Tunes character, and Penny Parker looks like she's been ripped straight out of a Flash animated anime.
Hi guys. Konnichiwa. Hajimemashite. Yoroshiku.
This could literally not get any weirder.
Animation co-director Patrick O'Keefe said that committing fully to each Spider's unique art style was like, quote, making 5 movies. Speaking of anime, that's not the end of Spider-Verse's influences related to that either. According to animator Eric Huang, speaking on the method of holding shots on twos, which resulted in the held frame moving with the camera, my friend David Han is responsible for bringing this technique up for use in the film. CGI anime like Land of the Lustrous use it, and it was one of the refs. Land of the Lustrous is of course the acclaimed CGI anime from Studio Orange, which significantly impacted the public perception of CGI anime in general, and utilized its strengths very well to deliver upon the potential of said methods. It's clear to see from every angle of the artistic process, from technical bits and pieces to even the plethora of Spider-Man fan service with its plethora of references to other bits and pieces of franchise history, that Spider-Verse is an absolutely spectacular love letter to the web shooter and comics in general. And with that comes a certain degree of respect for the property that just isn't seen much in superbly corporate productions nowadays. Disney, while home to some of the most beloved characters in films, thrives because the artists who have worked for them in the past were creative and artistically driven people. But Disney corporate, not so much. I could get into the whole can of worms as to why I think MCU Peter has failed to live up to my expectations of the character, in particular how his whole background has warped around some kind of Iron Man Jr. sort of theme, but that's a video all on its own, and I'd rather focus on the subject at hand here instead. This is perhaps no better illustrated than with the case of the late Stan Lee himself's daughter, who sided with Sony over the whole MCU Spider-Man split debacle. JC Lee was clear in saying, unequivocally, that Sony's move to limit control over Spider-Man is one that was necessary and that Stan would have appreciated. As JC herself stated, Marvel and Disney seeking total control of my father's creations must be checked and balanced by others who, while still seeking to profit, have genuine respect for Stan Lee and his legacy. Whether it's Sony or someone else's, the continued evolution of Stan's characters and his legacy deserves multiple points of view. When my father died, no one from Marvel or Disney reached out to me. From day one, they have commoditized my father's work and never shown him or his legacy any respect or decency. In the end, no one could have treated my father worse than Marvel and Disney's executives. And regardless of what you think of JC, it's hard to deny that she has an excellent point. Disney is no stranger to acting malevolently possessive of Stan's work when given the opportunity. No doubt you may have heard of the somewhat disturbing case of 4-year-old Ollie Jones. Ollie was a huge fan of Spider-Man, but died of a rare disease in December of 2018. His father planned to put an image of Spider-Man on Ollie's tombstone for him, but when reaching out to Disney, he was delivered a sobering response: refusal. "I didn't really expect it," said Lloyd Jones on their response. "I just thought they'd be alright with it." He continued by saying, "We spent his last birthday in Disneyland, and when he was on his deathbed, we brought him a Spider-Man, and that stayed with him the whole time." It becomes clear when looking at things like this that large corporate strong-arming over beloved franchises like this will result in what inevitably seems to happen in these types of situations. A lack of respect for the material itself that manifests in greedy corporate cash grabbing, a lack of faith in the strength of its original concepts, and most egregiously, a lack of respect for its creator and his own wishes. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse felt to me almost like a last hurrah from a team of individuals who understood Spidey, who understood Stan Lee, and who wanted to convey his ideas and characters with as much charm and dedication as any team possibly could. And I'd rather lose out on a couple of Tom Holland films to preserve that than let such a beloved icon fall into the pits of soulless marketing ploys. Because Spider-Man isn't about a rich billionaire inspiring and funding some guy in a suit to go fight crime with his cool new superpowers. It was about a loser. Just a normal guy like any of us, who wasn't blessed with destiny, legend, or billions of dollars, but was simply given the opportunity to make a difference purely at random, and what he decided to do with that power, that responsibility. It was about putting on the mask and doing what's right, not for any other reason than because you know it's right. And it was about how all of us could do that. All of us can be heroes by doing the right thing, by making a difference, by going the extra mile. And that's why Spider-Man needs to continue existing from different perspectives. Why I'm not too pressed about saving the franchise from Sony, and why never in a million years could Disney make Spider-Verse. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my video. This one turned out a lot shorter than I actually thought it would, which makes me feel a little silly for procrastinating on it for so long, but I hope you'll forgive me for the long delay and how short this video is, because now that I'm done with it, I can go on to make other things that I've been excited to make, so yeah. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, of course, leave a comment or a like. I would really appreciate that, and also helps with the YouTube algorithm, which hates me. You can also check out my Patreon, where you can get special rewards for donating money. You don't even have to donate that much. You can, like, donate $1 and get the Discord server and all that, and that's pretty fun. I also have a Twitter and a Tumblr at NezumiVA. I have a subreddit where I announce new videos and stuff, and yeah, I suppose that's about it. So thank you for tuning in once again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Peace.